Success is like having a recipe for a great meal. It only works if you know how to use the ingredients. As a best-selling author, entrepreneur, business coach, strategist, and champion, the Louis Howard Live Show provides you the insider's view on winning. All we do is win, 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 helping you become the best version of yourself. Hey, this is Louis Howard. How are you, B? How are you doing? Thank you for joining us for one last podcast before the end of 2024. I thought I'd throw one together, and this one's going to be a great one. So if you're listening to this after the fact, you want to save this one probably till after the holidays. You can see I'm wearing my holiday decor. I always get happy around Christmas. It's my favorite time of the year because it's the time when everybody gets involved with giving. And if you are of spiritual nature or a believer or Christian or Muslim or Jewish, those that believe and celebrate Christmas, you're always giving. But for others, it's a special time of the year to get everybody included. And boy, do we need that right now, huh? We need some giving going on in our place and in our world today. So I want to talk today, just throw down some thoughts about handling situations. Thank you. Sorry about that. That phone goes live right in the middle. It's my daughter. You can all wish her a happy Christmas. Anyway, so I want to talk about situations and detaching yourself from situations. And I got this as sort of a epiphany, an aha, an insight, a revelation, or whatever you want to kind of term it, came to me as I was dealing with a business situation. And I realized how emotionally attached that I had become to this situation that was ending. And I didn't want it to end on certain levels. And I was very attached to it. And so I went through, a mental ups and down trying to figure out how to detach myself from, this situation that was coming about. And so I thought about you. I thought about other people. I thought about people who get attached to outcomes, right? If you are in a relationship with someone, you are attached to the outcome of the relationship. If you are an employee, you're on a job, you're attached to that outcome. If you are a student and you're taking studies, you're attached to the outcome of what kind of grade you're getting. And I don't know that anyone has any situations worthwhile that they're not attached to and do not become affected if something changes. So, situation is just an existence of facts, conditions, or circumstances that we find ourselves in, right? There's a show on CNN called The Situation Room, right? In government, the president has a room that is insulated, and it's called the Situation Room. And they go in there to hash out particular answers to challenges that they are dealing with in the government at that time, right? So everybody's got a situation. Maybe you got a place where you and your family gather when you have a problem, or maybe you have a place where you go to and you talk to people about what you're going through. That's a situation. So we all have situations. If you're born on this planet, you got some situation, right? Either a physical situation, a mental situation, an emotional situation, a relationship situation, a professional situation, a education situation. We all have situations. We are born with that. And one of the biggest things in our culture that we hear people say is own it, own your thing, own your situation, own your it. And it really sounds powerful because it makes it sound like you are taking charge. You are taking authority over it. I'm owning my look. I'm owning my deal. I'm owning my grind. And you know what? Sounds good till it's not. till that taking ownership of something becomes a burden, till it becomes a stress, till you start having to take anti-anxiety medication because you've owned it so much, right? You own your bills, right? Anything your name is attached to, you tend to own it, right? Because we're taught that that's how you take responsibilities. You take ownership for your mistakes. You take ownership for things that you are involved in. And but I'm learning in life that that also becomes dangerous when you take ownership of too much. I started taking ownership when I was like 11 years old. Okay, way too young to be taking ownership. But with the structure of our household, I was quote unquote the man of the house, right? So my mother wanted me to take ownership of certain things that maybe an older child or a man would be doing. So I'm taking ownership of it. I'm taking ownership of being the man of the house, and I'm all of 11. But that meant working, that meant adding things to the house, that meant taking responsibility to get good grades, that meant taking responsibility of staying out of trouble and not interrupting my mother while she was working. It meant taking responsibility and ownership of being good in front of our friends and not making mistakes. So all of this was taking ownership of these various situations that I would encounter, notwithstanding my own emotional feeling about this or my own emotional understanding about this. With 11 years old, how much do you emotionally understand about responsibilities? I mean, we can barely clean our room or do the things that we're required to do. So think about your own life. Like, what if you start taking responsibility for it at an early age? What became your situation? Maybe you were raised in a single family, single mom home. Maybe you didn't have a parents at all, and you had to take responsibility early on. Maybe you had siblings that you had to take responsibility of, right? So we all can think about things that became our situation. Maybe you got bad credit. Now you have to take responsibility for that. Now you got laid off from a job. Now you got to take responsibility of finding another job. You see where I'm going? That all of these facts, these conditions, and circumstance set up our situation, right? What's your situation, right? What's your story? And so we become part of this vacuum of problems that we just surround ourselves because it's our situation. This time of the year, it is holiday season, and people are surrounded by the trappings of holidays and Christmas and giving, but maybe you're not in a position to give. Right. So now that becomes a point of stress. Or maybe people are expecting you to give because maybe in times you did give, but you can't give. Maybe your organization is asking you to volunteer to give. Now you got all these developing situations just because it's the holiday. So take everything you are in a bigger box and now you put these little things in. This creates stress. And what it does is when you take on too many of the wrong kind of situations, I'm going to talk about the right kind of situations to take on. When you take on too much of the wrong kinds of situations, it gets heavy. And this is the kind of year where it gets heavy, right? You're carrying the weights and the burdens of maybe your business owner, and you got to take ownership because it's your name on it, and you're responsible for the lease payment or the mortgage payment or whatever you are. You got to take, and it seems the responsibility to do. And by no means am I suggesting that you are not responsible for things that you are accountable for. But what I'm saying is they don't have to define you. They don't have to become you. If you've made a mistake in life, that doesn't have to define you your entire life. It doesn't have to define you as a situation or a fact or a condition or a circumstance. And it might be true. All right. There are many stories that that people they tell the truth. This is a fact. One story is there's a Bible story about they went out to scout the land out to see what it looked like and to sample some of the goods over there. And there were 12 spies that went out. Well, 10 of them came back, and their situation was they saw giants. They saw themselves as grasshoppers. The other two saw the same thing, but they didn't attach themselves to the negative part of that situation. They said, we be well able, because we believe we have an additional resource on our side that God can help us do this. So that was their perspective, right? So you may have some examples like that where we call it the glass half empty or the glass half full, right? So some people will only see that glass half empty, no matter how much you talk to them about it. Their situation, which is shaped by their perspective, right, lets that glass be half full. Me, I may look at the same glass and says, from my perspective, that glass is half full. A little more water, we're at the top. So everybody sees their situation differently. Have you ever met somebody that says, my situation is hopeless? There's no way out of me, right? That's a terrible thing because they are now looked at their situation and they can't see a way of escape from that. And so they have decided they have to carry that. Okay. That's why you always need to get help when something is bigger than you or stronger than you. You got to get outside help. Why? Because that person is not emotionally attached to the situation. That's why we go to a doctor when we're not feeling well, because the doctor will look at it and he'll be able to assess the situation and provide, if there's available, a remedy or a cure. If we try to treat ourselves based on our medical knowledge, good luck with all of that. I am not a fan of all the DIY stuff that people are doing, self medication, self adjustment, self injection. I'm not a fan because I don't think everybody ought to be managing their situations just because people have different perspectives about it. So, step one is you have to emotionally detach yourself from the outcome. So, let's say you're involved in a fat condition and circumstance. Let's say you're looking for a job and you are emotionally attached to getting this job because you know what this job will do, right? And so you're in it, right? You prepare, you do everything, okay? And they say no, okay? And now you're down, you're depressed, right? You're frustrated. And the reason why, in part, it is yes, it's because it said no, but you were vested into it. You were emotionally attached to it. And you kind of put all your eggs in one basket. And then we tend to do that. We're human beings. But what I'm saying is, if I'm looking for an opportunity, okay, I just told my assistant this, right? She had a situation where she was supposed to get paid an extra $600 for a job. It turns out that she's not going to get paid. So she was down about that. It's Christmas. She wants to use that money for her family. But what I told her was the $600 is still out there. It may not be in that lane, but it's still out there. So same with the job. If you didn't get the job is still out there. Maybe not from that company. So I don't want to be attached to getting the job here. I want to be attached to getting the job. Do you see what the difference is? So in other words, I'm not emotionally attaching myself to a specific outcome. That way, if I have no expectations of that, I'm not disappointed. We're only disappointed when we have expectations in people, places, and things, right? We're disappointed in people when they let us down because we have certain expectations. And you'll always hear that, man, I thought you were better than that. Girl, I thought you were stronger than that. Oh, I thought we were a better group than that because we didn't perform like somebody expected. This is going to happen in life, right? Nobody's going to ever perform up to your standards all the time. So there's always the risk of getting let down if you emotionally attach yourself to the situation. So one of my new sayings is, especially with negative situations, and so there are two types of situations. There are negative situations, and then there obviously are positive situations. And usually what I look at is, and I will say to a situation, that is not me, okay, and I'm not it. And I will not be defined by that mistake. I will not be defined by that disapproval. I will not be defined by that rejection. I will not be defined if I don't have the money. I won't be defined if I got to start over. So that avoid, I'm not permanently attached to that situation. I'm not kidding you. There are people still attached to situations that occurred 20 some years ago. They will still tell you about the offense that happened. They'll still, and they'll make it sound like it's almost new until you ask them, hey, how long ago that? Oh, that was 20 years ago. And I'm like, okay, you're still attached to that situation. It's probably time to get some closure and let go. I call it being stuck at the scene of an accident. You ever been in an accident, right? And there's a scene, right? They call it the accident scene. Okay. Well, you have to leave that scene and move on. You can't stay stuck at the scene of the accident. You need to move on, get home and get the car repaired and get it fixed. But there are people who mentally, they're still stuck at the scene of an accident. So you have to examine your mind. What are you still stuck at the scene of? What happened to you? Who happened to you? When it happened to you? Are you still stuck in that situation? Because if you are, it has a limiting factor on your current situation. It will affect your decision. Have a bad relationship, still stuck in a bad relationship, right? In terms of mentally, it will affect new relationships. I'm just not good with meeting people. I started meeting people in 1975 and it went bad, so I stopped meeting people after that. Okay, that means you're still stuck at the scene of what happened to you in 1965. You were emotionally attached to the outcome. It didn't go your way. And so you got stuck. Free yourself. So, number one, do not emotionally attach yourself to the outcome. Now, this is easier said than done when it comes to family, friends, money, relationships. It's really tough not to do it, but you have to detach yourself so you're not carrying that. Or let me put it another way, don't allow people to attach your name to situations that you should not be owning. People will call you and they'll have a problem. And what they're trying to do is, in some cases, they're trying to get you attached to the problem. And now you have to have ownership for solving the problem. People do it all the time. I need to borrow money. Hey, I'm kind of my wits end, and I need to borrow a couple $100, and I know you have it. And and boy, if you don't do it, you're like the last person that I would have called, but I'm calling. Well, now that makes you feel like, okay, I'm the last person. So what happens if I don't help? Where's this person going to go? Now I'm emotionally attached to the situation of getting that person a couple $100, right? 15 minutes later, I wasn't attached. So this is how easy we can become attached. You can become attached to mistakes. You can become attached to other people's problems. You can become attached to past problems and situations that should be resolved. You can be attached to your own expectations, which could be unreasonable in some cases. So there's a lot of way we could create situations. The key here is to take some weight off of you and get rid of some situations that you don't need. Do an audit of your people, places, and things. And what am I owning that I don't need to own? What am I stressing about that I should not be stressing about? Okay. What have I emotionally attached myself to the outcome that maybe I could have let that go? And again, this is the type of year that this happens. A lot of people go through depression around this time because they are attached to the expectation of giving gifts, the expectation of, being friendly or doing whatever, the thing is. You guys get it, right? But the whole thing is, it is liberating for you if you can learn to detach yourself from certain situations. Okay. Attach yourself to good works, right? If you have a mission and you have a purpose in your life, that is something good to be attached to, right? You got good people in your life and you want to preserve those relationships, then you want to be attached to investing in those relationships, okay? If you got good opportunities that can make a difference in your life and in the life of other people, and get attached to that. That's okay. Okay. Those are good things to be attached to. Things like love, things like faith, things like forgiveness, things like peace, right? These are great things to be attached to. Why? Because they're liberating. I don't feel depressed by being in love. I don't feel depressed by being generous. It doesn't make me feel down, right? But I can be depressed by mistakes. I can be depressed by my past. And so I think you have to have what we call a demarcation line, right? With situations and yourself. Define what is you, right? We come in this world with nothing, so we don't have a situation. We will leave this world with nothing. We won't have a situation. So it's just us, right? It's just you, your spirit, human being self, and it doesn't need to be attached to every situation. Want to see you get healthier with helping people, do the thing. I'm not advocating irresponsibility. If you got to pay your bills, hey, I'm not attached to that bill. I'm not paying that bill. Okay, well, that probably won't work. But I think there's a whole lot of overkill we have on our minds that we have become responsible and attached to. At a certain age, you shouldn't be attached to your kids. When they get of age and they can make their own dependent decisions, you need to lose detachment for that and let them have room to make their own mistakes and live on their own. So there are some things that are, good attachments in certain phases of life, not good in later. If they're a toddler, then yes, I'm attached to this kid. I want to make sure they're cared for, they're supported. They're 26. Okay, I'm pulling back the detachment here a little bit, right? So that you can have your own situation. And here's why most important. You don't want to be like I've been in past. I have been taken advantage of by people because they know I care. They know I'm kind of a softie. They know I'll help. And so people will bring me their situations and bring me problems, knowing full well that I'm probably going to be trying to detach and be helpful. That's not fair to me, just because I have the willingness to do it. Now, by the same token, I don't want to be an asshole. I don't want to be somebody you can't go to. But at the same time, do I need to carry everybody's problem and make that part of my situation? Absolutely not. And neither should you. So, homework assignment, sit down in your life, audit yourself, and write down what you are attached to. What's your situation, right? And then look at that and say, is that situation can work out for good for me now in the future? Or is this situation becoming a burden for me? Or is this situation I got an expectation on that ain't going to change? Then I've got to detach and say, this is no longer me. I am no longer what people have called me in past. I'm no longer what the credit system calls me or what the employee system calls me. I'm not going to be that. Okay. Whatever you answer to, that's what you are. Okay. So if people are trying to define you in some way, don't answer to that, right? Become the person that you know you are in here at heart. Live that. And if people can't accept you as that, find new people. Because I guarantee you, there's 8 billion people on the planet. You'll be able to find at least 2 people that can support you in the positive situations that you want to. I went a little bit longer today. I know I'm trying to keep these things 12 to 15 minutes, but I believe that hopefully this is helpful to someone in this holiday season and who's going to be getting ready to launch a new year and thinking about, I don't want to take old baggage into a new year. So this is a good time to detach yourself from unnecessary people, places, and things, facts, conditions, and circumstances that you've owned way too long. This is Lewis Howard. Thank you for joining our podcasts and programs. You know where to find us. We're all over on 15 different platforms. Hey, if this wasn't helpful to you, get it to a friend, because I guarantee you somebody's dealing with over management or over being responsible for a situation. We'll see you again on another edition of Lewis Howard Live.
Every great champion knows that success, overcoming, and winning in life is no accident. Creating individual success is like having a recipe for a great meal. It only works if you know how to use the ingredients. As a best-selling author, entrepreneur, business coach, strategist, and champion, the Lewis Howard Live Show provides you the insider's view on winning. All we do is win, 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 helping you become the best version of yourself.